Hey friend, welcome back to the Holy and Hungry segment of the Vision Driven Health podcast. This midweek episode is a short health devotional for you where you can bring your hunger to the table and be filled with what God has for your health. Today's episode is especially exciting because it is Vision Driven Health's 100th episode. Wow! I seriously cannot believe that I have put together 100 episodes. My episodes have averaged 24 minutes, so that's 2,400 minutes of episode content. 2,400. That is just crazy. Some other fun facts. This show has been listened to in 128 different countries, has over 42,000 downloads, is a 1.5% globally ranked show, and I've had 21 different guests participate in delivering some awesome insight and wisdom in different episodes. And I have to tell you that it is extremely humbling to consider the way that this has grown and the people that I've had the honor to get to serve and connect with through this podcast. And at the end of the day, if you're familiar with the podcast world and the numbers that I just provided about this show, you also know that this is still a very tiny show, but hopefully just for now. But I am very grateful for whoever listens and is blessed by me or the guests that I have on here. I really feel like God told me to start this, so here I am. And at the end of the day, it's all for His glory, and it's by His grace that this show even exists at all. Truly, truly, I need Him. And today's episode, in some ways, is a tribute to the many people who have sowed into this podcast, and it is a testament of the power of community to create lasting change and success. But more specifically, we'll connect it to being consistent and tackling cravings. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Do you find yourself struggling to consistently implement healthy habits? Do you lack energy, confidence, and motivation because of stress, overwhelm, and shame for having not gotten it together by now? Friend, there is hope and grace for your health. Hey, I'm Robin Ryan McDonald, host of the Vision Driven Health podcast. I'm a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mama of two, and a seminarian turned health coach. And I'm so excited that you're here. I found myself in my early 20s captive to cravings and convenience. 20 pounds heavier, super tired, with a face full of acne. I could not figure out how to maintain healthy habits until I discovered the power of aligning my choices with God's vision. 10 years and 2 kids later, by the grace of God, I'm still prioritizing my health and feeling amazing. If you are over quick fixes and are ready to feel good in your own skin, then grab a giant water bottle and let's dive on in. As I've already mentioned, this is the 100th episode, so naturally, I have to do some sort of giveaway. And I just did this for the 1-year anniversary episode in May, but hey, can there really be such thing as too many giveaways? So for today's special occasion, I am giving away a free spot in the next cohort of the Healthy Weight Loss Academy. Yes, I'm doing it again. Honestly, it was just so cool to get to connect with those of you who joined the raffle last time. The things that you emailed me seriously blessed me so stinking much. And it was an honor to get to serve the gal who ended up winning the raffle. She was so sweet. And I just want to offer that again. So I'm going to tell you how to qualify here in a moment. But if you didn't know already, the Healthy Weight Loss Academy is a 6-week course where I walk you through how to address what's kept you from creating healthy and lasting weight loss in the past. You learn how to eat for your body and your goals. And most importantly, you learn systems and habits that create a lifestyle that lasts in partnership with the one who created you. Now, if you want more insight into what this process looks like, you can actually check out an interview that I did with 2 former students in episode 71. Otherwise, to qualify for this free seat, all you need to do is email me the following: a screenshot of your review for the show, a screenshot of you posting your favorite episode on your story or profile, and if you're not on social media, you can show me that you sent it to a friend, and then a confirmation email for joining my email list. And if you've already joined, just show me the latest email to you. And if you've already entered this raffle from the last time, so you've already left a review, I don't mind if you just take a screenshot of the review that you already left. You're more than welcome to enter again. In fact, I would love it if someone who tried before won this time. I think that would be great. But that's it. So those 3 things, easy as 1, 2, 3, screenshot of the review, screenshot of you posting on your social media, and then confirmation email of joining the email list. Screenshot of the email. So you actually have until August 31st, which is quite a ways from today, but something I am adding to increase your chance of potentially winning is that if you end up referring a friend who joins the raffle, that is an extra entry for you. So for example, if you do the 3 steps, you get your entry, and then 5 of your friends join the raffle as well, and I get emails from them too, that's an additional 5 entries for you on top of your first one. So that's 6 total. And the way that you can show me that that's the case, you can, however you want to prove it that your friend signed up, that's fine. And even if you don't want to win the free access to the course, it would just honestly mean so much if you celebrated the 100th episode by writing a review and sharing the show. If this has blessed you, that would be super awesome. But you can also snag your spot for the Healthy Weight Loss Academy at visiondrivenhealth.com/course for $50 off until August 9th, which is 2 days from the day of this episode airing. If you get your early bird ticket and you enter the raffle and you end up winning the raffle, I will refund you the full cost. So if you're like, I hope I win, but I also don't want to miss out on the $50 discount, you can go ahead and get your discount and then see if you win the raffle, and I will take care of you. But I hope all of that makes sense. All the details will be spelled out below in the show notes. Otherwise, let's get into the meat of today's episode. Okay, I definitely took longer for the intro and giveaway portion of this, so let's get to the point. In Exodus 17:8, which begins with, the Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. So prior to this, the Israelites had been journeying for quite some time in the desert from Egypt to the Promised Land, and they were in this cycle of complaining and even wishing that they were back in Egypt whenever things got challenging in the desert. Now, I honestly used to be super critical of the Israelites in these chapters. I'd be like, you guys saw a sea split in 2 so you could walk on it. Like, how could you ever complain? Like, you literally saw God wreak havoc with plagues. Like, it was just so difficult for me to fathom. Like, how in the world could you complain? But when I look back on my life, God might as well have split an ocean in 2 in the numerous ways that he has shown up in my life and has been faithful. Truly, God has demonstrated his power and faithfulness. And yet, I still worry. I'll complain. I'll lack faith. So now when I read these chapters, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm an Israelite. But in this particular story, Moses tells Joshua to assemble some men to fight the Amalekites and tells Joshua that he will be sitting at the top of the hill with the staff of God in his hands. Now, this is the same staff that was used when God brought the plagues in Israel, the same staff that was used to part the Red Sea. So this staff was a symbol of the work of God. So when the Israelites were in the thick of the battle, maybe feeling discouraged, maybe wondering if they're going to actually win, they could look at the top of the hill and see that Moses was holding up the staff that symbolized God's hand was with them. And yet, Moses' arms grew weary. He struggled to hold them up. But thankfully, Aaron and Hur were there as well, and they brought him a seat to sit on, and they each held up an arm. And the end of the story, if you don't already know, the Israelites prevailed in that battle. Now, I just want to point out a few things from this story that I think are very relevant for being consistent in healthy habits and overcoming cravings. I think cravings can often feel like the Amalekites in this story. They just come out of nowhere and attack. And yes, I am drawing a parallel to the Amalekites and cravings. This alliteration, kites, cravings, no, just kidding. But maybe sometimes you feel like Joshua and you're looking for someone to give you direction and to offer hope when you're in the middle of it and you feel like you're in a battle and you don't know if you're going to win. Maybe sometimes you feel like Moses and you know exactly what to do, but you struggle to do it on your own. I find it super interesting that Aaron and Hur joined Moses at the top of the hill. It doesn't say anywhere that, Moses asked them to or that God told them that they should be there. And yet, Aaron was often with Moses in a lot of the things that Moses told the people to do. Aaron was with Moses in Egypt and all that, whole dynamic. But from what I could see, unless I missed it, but I believe this is the first time that Hur is ever mentioned. And I'm just kind of curious, did Moses know that he would need help? He's like, oh man, my arms aren't what they used to be. Like, why don't you guys come on up here with me? Or, did God give him some kind of insight? I don't know. I just find that super interesting. But regardless, Moses, the guy who was used by God so powerfully up until this point, even in the last 2 chapters of seeing God provide quail, manna, and water out of nothing, he needed help holding his hands up. Now, if you're like me, maybe you're I can do this kind of person, you want to see what you're capable of. You kind of want to do it on your own. You just want to try and see. But we have to remember that at the end of the day, we're not ever really doing it on our own if we want it to last. Our true lasting strength comes from the Lord. And the Lord uses other people to help us be strong and to be consistent in what we're holding up. Moses held up hope, and with the help of others, he was able to be that source of hope and ultimately the connection to God, the intercessor for the people in that battle. Joshua was dependent on Moses to encourage the men in battle. And so, friend, if you haven't tapped into getting accountability for handling cravings and being consistent in your health habits, this is your sign. Who is your Aaron? That person who's like family to you, who has your back, or maybe who is family to you. Who is your Hur? A person that maybe you don't even know yet, or someone that you haven't even considered that could function in this role, who just kind of seems to come out of nowhere. Now, what would it look like for you to set an intention for your health and invite 2 trusted individuals to either do it with you? Maybe it's kind of like, maybe Moses just knew like, hey, you know what? I've got a big job to do. I'm going up this hill. I could really use a couple people to support me in this. And, Moses didn't know what he was going to, how it was going to shake out, but he knew he needed support. So maybe you just need a couple people that you're like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I need some support. Or maybe you just need, to tell someone like, hey, this is what I'm committing to. And really, you have to consider how many more battles have to be lost before you get some friends to hold up your health habit arms. And you might think the battle is simply giving into some ice cream at night too much pizza or whatever. But it's honestly just so much more than that. Because every time that we fall into these cycles and these patterns that we know are not supporting us and we know are not aligned with the vision that God has given us and aren't allowing us to have the energy and vitality that we're called to, we end up believing a lie that we can be or are controlled by that craving. We believe that we're not actually capable of change because this keeps happening. It undermines your self-worth and your confidence in what's possible for you. It robs you of the joy that comes in depending on God and leaning into the body of Christ. Now, obviously, I would love for you to lean into the next cohort of the Healthy Weight Loss Academy, where you'll have an accountability buddy, group calls, and community support, which again, check out episode 71 to listen to some former students on their experience. But setting up an accountability trio is super easy, and I think you can do it. So all you got to do is pick your 2 friends and let them know what your intentions are. But the 2 key things to make this work is, number 1, you need to make it so clear what you're asking them to do for you. Because if you just call up, 2 of your closest friends and say, hey, I'm trying to get some accountability. I want to implement some healthy habits. These are the habits I'm doing. Can you guys keep me accountable? I'm sure your friends will be really sweet and they'll be like, yeah, of course. But they might not know what you need in order to support you. So you have to really think for yourself, what do you need to stay on track? Is it a daily text? Is it to receive a week, to be able to send a weekly update, to your friend? Is it to, have that friend available to be on call if you're feeling, maybe stressed or anxious and you feel inclined to emotionally eat or something like that? You have to get clear on what you want that friend to do for you and then communicate that accordingly. The next thing that's super duper important is to set a timeline. So, if you want accountability for a week, or if you want it for a couple weeks, or if you have a really sweet friend who will do it for a couple months, you want to make sure that you're clear on the timeline, because that helps really, honestly, it helps you to make it to the end and for your accountability person to support you to the end. So for example, you can let your friend know, say, hey, I would really like 4 weeks of accountability. I'm going to send you a weekly check-in. If you could please read that and respond. And then sometimes I might need to reach out to you for some pep talks. Do you think you can do that for me? That way someone knows what they're committing to and they can actually follow through. Another example might be that you say, hey, for the next 7 days, can you just shoot me a daily text and see, whether or not I'm doing my habits? And then after those 7 days, do you think maybe I could send you a weekly text just to kind of see how things are going for another 4 weeks after that? And again, I'm sure your friends would be super sweet and say yes. And, you can kind of do some trial and error and see what works best for you. But again, if you can just be clear on that communication, set the timeline, get the right people in place, then you can actually probably see some really great progress on your health habits. So friend, and lastly, I will say actually, for some really divine for sure, the best strategy, it's just a matter of whether or not you feel like you can clearly hear what God is saying, but pray about it. Ask him, who the people are to reach out to. Ask him what, maybe you need support on the most. And, God's so faithful. He'll probably also, reveal some areas that he wants to heal in your heart, to reveal some truth he wants you to take hold of. It's always the best to partner with him and to seek him on that. But otherwise, friend, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Vision Driven Health Podcast today. I hope this episode inspired you, supported you, and blessed you in some way. If it did, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode on your social media. The more reviews and shares this gets, the more people can be blessed and encouraged in creating a Jesus-centered, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. If you want to hang with me and other Jesus-loving ladies who are creating healthy habits that last, be sure to join my free Facebook group, the Made Well Mastermind. Use the link in the show notes to join. Be blessed with hope, joy, and health. I'll see you next week.